Go read Ultimate Spider-Man right now. And don't go sailing the seven seas for it either. Actually, go support it. Go to your local comic store and pick it up or buy it online, whatever the case. Of course, if you don't have access to any of that stuff, do what you gotta do, matey.
17 the Blue.
It's no surprise to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this comic. It's just so tough. This will be full spoilers, so be warned. But this isn't gonna be a play-by-play recapping the whole comic. Well, maybe it will be, because I really liked everything in it. But for anyone who hasn't read it and doesn't care about spoilers, here's the gist. This story is set in Marvel's new Ultimate Universe, made by the Maker. But 20 years ago, the Maker prevented the radioactive spider from biting a 15-year-old Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes, and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. But when Tony Stark found out the dark history of his universe, he tried to undo it, prompting the Mayor's Council to attack Manhattan, killing thousands and framing Tony Stark for it. Peter Parker has lived his life unaware of the Maker's Council and the truth behind the spider. But that's about to change. Look, I'm a new comic book reader, and for all the new comic book readers out there, this is a great time to start reading with this story. Now, I've always been interested in comics, because they're literally the background of the genre of movies and shows that I've liked since a little kid. So I would know of the big events or when something interesting happened to an iconic character. And when I found out about a storyline that sounded interesting, I would go to Comicstorian, Variant Comics, or Comics Explained to learn about an event or a specific character. Those OG comic book YouTubers are just really good at trimming all the fat out and making the comic digestible. They're a good source for people who are interested in comics, but just don't know where to start, because honestly, it could be kinda overwhelming at times. And that's why I think that's one of the reasons that makes Ultimate Spider-Man so good. It does a pretty good job at easing you into the shenanigans that are happening in the Ultimate Universe without it feeling overwhelming. It doesn't reference 15 different tie-in comics and 5 big crossover events that'll take you a month to get through to get all the backstory and the context for the single comic you're reading. There's a little bit of that missing context with the Maker and his business, but it's nothing too overwhelming or even really needed for this Spider-Man story, at least so far. But that's exactly why it took me so long to get into comics. I went into a comic store a couple years ago to try to get into them, and I didn't want to spend 40 to 60 bucks on an omnibus that I might like. So I picked up a couple comics that said issue 1 on them, and buddy, I was lost as shit. But these last couple of months, I just said F it and just started reading whatever looked cool, trying not to get too bogged down by the references to lore of past issues from like 5 years ago or other tie-in events, which is kind of hard. Cause I'm a lore guy. I want to know all of that stuff, but I just don't have the time to get sidetracked and read 1,000,001 comics and come back to the one I was originally reading. The lore just runs a little too deep sometimes, making it feel inaccessible to new readers, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's just kinda uninviting. I just had to give a brief history of my journey with comics, cause it's kinda relevant on why I liked Ultimate Spider-Man so much. Not only is it a good point for readers to jump onto, but for major Spider-Mans like myself, and on top of not being deep into comics, seeing various versions of Peter in adulthood, this story is just so new, refreshing, and interesting. I really like how this story and the reveals are layered. Getting to know about Peter's new life, finding out what characters are around, and what his relationships are with them. I think the character reveal that caught me the most off guard was Uncle Ben running the Daily Bugle with Jay Jonah. Dog. I was still taking in and enthralled by seeing adult Peter in this new world, seeing his dynamic with his kids and MJ. So the Uncle Ben reveal honestly blindsided me. And it's genuinely such a fun reveal and setup. Peter going into work at the Daily Bugle, per usual. Then Jay Jonah instantly starts screaming, "Parker! Parker!" And I'm just like, okay, Jonah's gonna get on Peter's head per usual. But when Jay Jonah actually gets close to Peter, he's just like, "Hey, Peter." Huh? He just walks past them, continuing to yell, "Parker!" Revealing the Parker he was yelling for was fucking Uncle Ben. No cap, I had to put the comic down for a sec. That reveal hit me like a damn truck. I was so shocked. This reveal was so shocking to me because I read before the comic came out that Aunt May died. So in my brain, I just assumed that Uncle Ben died too, because he's usually not a character that sticks around, you know?
Man, I'm dead.
Hey, disconnected.
It's weird seeing him as an actual character, interacting with other people in these environments like the Daily Bugle and the bar with no name. It's just so cool seeing him have his own place in this universe and have his own motivations and his own relationships. I really loved his relationship with Peter and how he handles things, as opposed as always seeing Aunt May as Peter's guiding light when he needs it. He just has a straight to the point, no nonsense type of persona. And it's so fitting when he converses with this adult Peter. I just love how he tells Peter, stop beating around the bush and be direct, when Pete wants to check in on him about May's recent death. He has this quick spiel about Peter losing his parents, and he asks if Peter ever stops thinking about his parents. And that's what it feels like to lose May. And just like J. Jonah describes him as the toughest son of a gun he's ever met, comparing Ben's feelings to the durability of stone. This man hasn't said anything about May's death since it happened a year ago. He hasn't expressed his feelings about it at all. Surely that's not healthy, right? He just basically tells Peter, I'm straight, mind your business, and just lets out a single dingular tear at the ceremony during Matt Murdock's speech. Ben just has this hard exterior, strong moral compass, and unbreaking spirit that's inspiring to see. I love the way that him and J. Jonah are the only people to stand up to Kingpin, as he tries to take control of the media by taking over the Daily Bugle. Fisk even tries to get Ben under his thumb, to be his lackey and run the Bugle like a drone following orders when J. Jonah refuses. But Ben, he isn't having none of that. He just gives a cheeky little smirk and leaves the room, walking out on the Kingpin, quitting his job without a second thought. And he just meets J. Jonah in the elevator. I really like this moment in the elevator because J. Jonah just has his smile like he knew that Ben was gonna quit too. It's just a fun moment showing their strong friendship and how both of them are so headstrong. It's gonna be interesting to see how Ben's strong moral compass and unbreakable spirit influence Peter as he becomes Spider-Man. I can't wait to see where this universe takes Ben and how it develops his story, even though that development is most likely gonna lead him to an early grave. Cause come on, no one's gonna oppose the Kingpin and come out unscathed.
I'm here to kill you.
But hey, more character growth for Peter, am I right? But speaking of the main man Pete, seeing him become Spider-Man for the upteenth time is just as hard-hitting as ever. This new take of him being about 35 years old and being bit by the spider, as opposed to him being 2 decades younger and 15 when he's bit, just has so much damn potential. I saw this point on Twitter by the Spider Nerd highlighting the key differences from original Recipe Spider-Man and this new Ultimate one. They said, one who had the power but needed to learn responsibility, the other knew the responsibility but was robbed of the power. That quote just encapsulates the essence of this reimagining of Spider-Man's well-known origin so perfectly. It's just something exciting about seeing my favorite hero in this new light. Seeing this flip on things. Instead of being a teenager and this power thrusted upon him, having to learn what it means to use that great power responsibly, and now he's already an established adult with a wife and kids and steady job, already nailing that responsibility part. Now, finding that great power to make a change. It's gonna be interesting to see how getting this great power blows his new life up. Will this new, more responsible Peter be able to balance it all? Or will it strain his relationship with his family and distract him from his career? But I love the emotion that this new origin brings out of Peter. Him struggling with feeling empty inside from not being Spider-Man. Having this feeling that something was taken from him and he doesn't feel whole without it. He just has this aura of sadness around him from feeling this way. Like he's walking around, carrying himself like the shell of the person that he's supposed to be. MJ even tells him that she notices that. This new narrative is just playing with so many intriguing concepts. Like I said earlier, I really like how this story handles its reveals and how layered it is. This story does one of my favorite things, where with new context after finishing the story, moments and conversations have a different meaning. Like May picking up the sphere thing at the start of the story. I saw it and I was just like, okay, is that one of those magic ball things I used to see on TV as a kid?
You're about to be mesmerized. It's here. It's wild. It's sweeping the nation. It's Fushigi!
I just said, whatever, and just kept on reading, not thinking too hard about it. But it literally was the sphere that has the spider to give Peter his powers. It's something small, but I love stuff like that. The clues were always there, we just didn't know what to look for yet. But with this new context that this story takes place after Peter finds out he was supposed to be Spider-Man, it just gives his conversations about his empty feeling a whole new meaning. Because through the whole issue, as Peter's talking about this emptiness, we, the audience, know what was taken from him and why he feels this way. But the story makes you think, does he know? Does he not know? And if so, how? And that's because he keeps things as vague as possible as he talks about this feeling. There are usually people around, like his kids, or the person he's trying to convey this emotion to, Uncle Ben, that don't need to know that he was a superhero. But it's not until the end of the issue that the reader actually finds out after the night that Peter found out that he was supposed to be Spider-Man. So Peter telling Ben that he just can't blow up his life and do something new and fulfilling like he did because he has a wife and kids to support isn't about his job at the Daily Bugle. He's really talking about being Spider-Man and being afraid of what that would do to his life. It's just such a great moment of Peter coming to his uncle about this problem and seeing Ben's approach to it. I just love how in this universe, Ben is still one of the main reasons Peter becomes Spider-Man. But instead of saying his iconic speech and then dying to put Peter on that righteous path, it's a remix of his iconic speech that is more relevant to this adult Peter situation. He just has a straight to the point, inspiring conversation about not doing something is still actively choosing to do something. And just to make whatever in your life happen and stop waiting for it to happen. And when he says this to Peter, Peter just looks so inspired by it. It's just such a solid moment, and that direct approach is exactly what an adult Peter needs right now. And then, to top off this already hard-hitting moment, he tells Peter, "I love you, son," and tells him to stop walking around being dazed by his life and to wake up, essentially telling him to take that leap of faith to become Spider-Man. Dog, I'm crying in the club right now. This just all hits so hard. I really love the fact that Peter slowly builds up confidence from the people around him to become Spider-Man. Getting that great pep talk from Uncle Ben, then MJ embracing his decision, cementing his confidence to make such a drastic decision. It's just so great seeing how everyone around Peter uplifts and supports him. Uncle Ben is a solid moral compass and guiding light. MJ is super supportive of his situation and acts as his anchor. His kids love him. He's even buddy-buddy with J. Jonah. This totally won't be ruined, right? The last thing that I found surprisingly enjoyable before I talk about the beautiful art is J. Jonah Jameson. His role in this story is not something that I thought I'd enjoy so much. He's still the typical loudmouth hard ass, but it was pretty nice to see how much sincerity he has. Like him making sure Peter looks nice before the ceremony, giving him his tie, then having a convo with Peter about protecting Uncle Ben, making a pact to work together if they see anything wrong with Ben. It's just such a great moment of showing how much J. Jonah cares, while also still being snarky and busting Peter's balls. I really enjoy his friendship with Ben though. I love the fact that they're so solid, they go instantly start their own newspaper after the Bugle gets taken over by the Kingpin. Like it's not even up for debate. It's so crazy how much on the same page they are. I really like Jameson's quote to Ben about the news. There's no truth in the news, and there's no news in the truth. I don't know, that just stuck with me. It's just so fun seeing these characters interact this way, and seeing the way that they have each other's back. Out of all the characters that I thought I'd see J. Jonah be friends with, Uncle Ben was not one of them. I hope we get to see how they got into running the Bugle together. I know that J. Jonah has a bunch of heartfelt and sincere moments in the comics, but since I'm not that deep yet, I just haven't been exposed to a lot of those moments. And he has a couple of those types of moments in movies and other media, but nothing on this level. It's just so great seeing this character like this. Brother. The art and coloring in this story is so insane. Marco Checchetto and Matthew Wilson really did they Dougie on this one. Not only does each page look fucking amazing, the superb art and coloring just set the vibe for this empty feeling that the narrative has so damn well. A big factor for that, I think, is because of the time of the year that this comic is set. It's set in January, during the winter, and the gray cloudy skies above the beautifully drawn city and sprawling skyscrapers hits so damn hard. And then the moody, snowy scenery mixes so well with the gloomy skies, and really complements the colors being used in these panels. The coloring makes the panels of when the city is meeting them mourn their losses feel so isolating, even within the dense crowds. The brooding weather just feeds into the coldness and emptiness that's felt during the story. It makes the actual moments of isolation of characters in the snow feel that much more personal. And it's even better when Peter finally makes the choice to become Spider-Man, finally feeling like he's whole again. You get this explosion of color and warmth, ripping through the coldness, isolation, and emptiness that has rightfully been the vibe of the whole issue, making Peter's choice feel that much more impactful. Another thing that I really loved about the art are the character models. I just really like the details on the characters so much. Seeing this more adult Peter with his long facial hair and suave glasses making him look more matured, but at the same time, still able to portray that youthful, frantic, always on go vibe that he's known for. With his messy hair and unbuttoned collared shirt, his adult character model is just so spot on. And I really like seeing how skinny he is in some of the panels. Just seeing his lean, lanky frame get buff as hell is gonna be so cool. And it's gonna be pretty funny to see MJ's reaction to it. But speaking of MJ, her aesthetic is so fire. I hate using this word to describe her aesthetic when we see her for the first time, but it's kind of like hipstery. And I mean that in the best way possible. I think it's a good contrast to Peter's more matured look, and it's a great pairing when they both get dressed up. I just can't wait to see more of their dynamic. There's a lot to like about the art and the coloring, but the last two things that stood out to me before I get into my favorite panels / pages are the way that the lighting is used and the look of the older characters. I really love the subtle use of lighting in some of the panels. It's masterfully done. For instance, when Peter's talking to Ben and Jonah in the bar with no name, there's this pink hue on the characters because of the bar's lighting. It just works so well to set the mood and the atmosphere for the heartfelt moment between Peter and his uncle. I just love little details like that. And the last thing is how older characters look like Ben and Jonah. I hope this makes sense, but they're perfectly weathered. They just have this gruffness to them that really depicts their age and the stress of running the Daily Bugle so well, especially J. Jonah. It's just so cool to me how Marco Checchetto depicts old age beyond just saggy skin and gray hair. I was just gonna pick my favorite panel / page in the whole issue, but I couldn't just pick one. So these are the ones that really stood out to me. I really like the moment of Peter's family in the crowd while Matt Murdock gives his speech. It's just a very thought out layout that conveys so much emotion from the sequence of panels alone. Of course, the writing of Matt's speech about loss and keeping the memories of your past loved ones alive helps immensely. But the way the layout guides your eyes during these panels is beautiful. First, we're shown the headstone with a bunch of names on there, but focusing on Aunt May, Norman Osborn, and Emily Osborn. Then to Matt making his speech. But after that, it's a beautiful shot of Peter's family in the crowd. With the muted colors of the crowd making Peter's family stand out, just makes me feel isolated in their moment of mourning. It makes me feel like Matt is talking directly to them. And then, still feeling that isolation, Ben drops a single tear for May. It's just such a hard-hitting moment, ending with the introduction of Harry Osborn. The placement and layering of the panels really set up this moment so well. And then the writing, art, and coloring really take it home. The next panel / pages that I really enjoyed was the introduction of the Kingpin. It was such a fun moment. I love the panel right before he's revealed. You see this looming shadow of his egghead and gigantic figure nearly taking up half of the long boardroom table in the Daily Bugle.
Damn, that's a big bitch.
Then on the next page, he's finally revealed, looking like he can snap a man in half with his bare hands. I really like his character design. He's like a big boned Lex Luthor. Kingpin just looks so shady and out of place at the Bugle. He just has this devilish grin that's so unsettling, but I love it. He even has these little F-suit cuffs. He just screams villain. I really like these next pages / panels because they capture so much emotion from Peter. The first is when Ben is giving Peter that speech in the bar, setting him on the path to be Spider-Man. For one panel, Peter looks so enamored by his uncle's pep talk. His face just captures perfectly how inspired Ben is making him. You can just see the confidence that he's instilling in Peter. It felt like Peter was a kid again in that moment. It's just such a great capture of emotion. The other panel that I think captures a lot of emotion is right before Peter tells MJ that he needs to be Spider-Man. Peter's face is just shrouded in darkness. I love this because he thinks that decision is gonna change his marriage for the worst. And the art on that panel just conveys that emotion so well. It's just chef's kiss. I've seen a lot of people praise the last page, and rightfully so. It looks beautiful. It's the birth of a new Spider-Man. But the one before it just captures so much emotion for me. Peter finally making the choice, deciding to be Spider-Man, and him remembering the two people that put him on the path to make that choice is just so top tier. Peter has a face of pure content and happiness while the spider's going to bite him. You don't see Peter look like this for pretty much the whole issue. Yeah, you get glimpses of smiles and fleeting happiness. It's like he finally knows what he's supposed to do in life. He found his purpose. He found his drive. And with the explosive colors, compared to the gray, snowy, cold, isolated roof Peter's standing on, just makes the moment feel so high octane and dynamic. It's honestly just so beautiful to see. This comic just made me feel like a kid again while reading it. I was walking into the comic store with pure glee and excitement. It felt like I was reliving a childhood moment when buying it. It reminded me when I was 8 or 9, walking into GameStop to get my first PS3, and walking out with Batman Arkham Asylum, eagerly looking at the case, counting the seconds until I got home to play it. Now I'm 23 years old, eagerly speeding home to read a comic. I honestly can't recommend this comic enough. I'm so excited to be invested in this new Ultimate Universe. Let me know your favorite. Future Dennis here. Thank you for checking out the video and getting this far. If I just wanted to pop in to give a quick update on what the next Ultimate Spider-Man video will be, because this was on only on issue 1, and you know I've been keeping up with the series, and so I was thinking, should I do something in the midway point of the comic? But nah, I think I'm gonna wait until this all wraps up and then do like a video on it, because I've been keeping up with it. But yeah, it just took me a while to make this video. I was moving apartments, and I recorded this like in January, or when the comic came out. Yeah, so in January. So, but if you do want to hear my thoughts on the comic before it all wraps up, check out my podcast, What Did I Miss Podcast. Links below. But yeah, I just yap about what I yap about on this channel pretty much. So yeah, go check that out if you liking the content here. And again, just thank you for checking out this video. If you made it this far, appreciate it. Don't forget to, hold on, not there yet. Actually, I really want to know everyone's opinions on this issue the comic so far, and on this issue, I guess. And what are some problems you guys have with it? Because I was riding high with this, bro. I was, there's probably some problems that I'm just overlooking. So if anyone has any problems with the comics, I definitely would like to know. And just your overall thoughts on it, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. But I'll catch you guys. Oh, I will be making videos before, I'm not gonna just stop making videos until this all wraps up. I'll be dropping videos in between then. This was just taking me a while to work on because it was just a lot of editing, and I was not used to that, buddy. Yeah, so I think that's that on that. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I think I said that already. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Twos.